Hey,
What is up,
what's
brother? How you doing?
happening? I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, dude, beautiful. Thank you. First and foremost, let me fucking fix this camera. Jesus H. Dude, thank you for taking the time today. This is awesome, man. I cannot appreciate the time enough, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited to be here.
Holy moly. So, are you born and raised on Long Island?
I am born and raised on Long Island. Yeah, so I have the Long Island accent and everything going for me. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, dude. I've got to come over and visit at some point here. Some great music comes out that way. I hear that you guys have a mean bagel. Is that true?
Yep, our bagels are great. Our bagels are
Insane,
awesome. Yeah.
insane.
Yep,
Oh,
it's the water. It's the water over here is great. So
that's
it
what it's so crazy. I know. Over the years of conversations I've been able to have with different people from Long Island, and they've mentioned that, and I'm just like, a bagel of all things. But dude, you find a good bagel, shit.
yeah, man.
I mean, it's a great start to your day.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Bacon, egg, and cheese, bagel. It's a New York thing. Yeah.
Man, oh man, dude, I love that, dude. And even more so than that, Ketchup on Waffles. This movie's just coming out here. It's been making some rounds in festivals currently.
Yeah, yeah, it has. It's proven to be very successful thus far with the festivals. We just had it shown 2 months ago at the Chinese Theater off of Hollywood Boulevard, and we had a
Sick,
crazy, crazy theater reactions to that. People were not ready for that in that theater.
man.
And yeah, it won best crime thriller at that festival, so that was awesome.
Shit,
Yeah,
dude, congrats, man.
yeah, thank you, man. Thanks.
You have something like this, and obviously, today with like kind of our conversation and this still making rounds and such, I don't want to so much, be into, spoilers and things like that, but kind of touching on some of the details that you'll get, when you see the movie. And I mean, it's like a different take on almost, a home invasion,
Yeah.
and just an invasion in general, personal space, and
Mm.
it attacks so many things. So,
Yeah, it
I,
it takes place in a public space, and I feel like that's really like what the twist is of it. It's like a home invasion in a public space.
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, you'll like you guys have to see what it's like when it comes out. It's a fucking crazy movie.
Have you found like an equal amount of reactions of like middle fingers versus like thank yous?
um, yeah, the it just varies. It varies. It's people either cursing at the screen in the theater, or it's people being like, that was amazing. It's never just in the middle of just being like, it was okay. Like it's been either you hate it or you love it. It's been 100% either way.
And I feel like, I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I'm not a filmmaker, but as far as like from the standpoint outside looking in, I feel like that's the most complimentary thing when you have an audience that isn't, that's somebody that maybe, just thrashes and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I just
Right.
witnessed and what I watched. And,
Mhm.
and to have those visceral reactions, like I think that's what like somebody looks for when they're having like a movie, especially something like this, you're like, man,
Yeah.
it's intense.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was saying that if you love this movie, I succeeded. If you hate this movie, I succeeded. And I think and if you just think it's okay, that's where I failed.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that was kind of my mindset going into making this movie.
Sure.
Um, and that just seems to be the case so far.
No, have you guys had some showings and different things on Long Island there?
Yeah, we had a big showing back in August, which was pretty much, it was open to the public. It was a lot of our cast and crew's family members, which
Oh.
um which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Um I my friend who plays the Blue in the movie, Rob, he was saying that his grandma was there, and she was giving him, dirty looks the entire time, and he was like, "Why'd you come?" you know. Um, my mom and my sister saw the movie for the first time at the Chinese theater, and that was I felt horrible for them watching this movie. Watching this movie,
Oh,
my
man.
dad, my dad loved it. My dad had a great time with it. He was like, cracking up like Max Cady and Cape Fear in the movie theater. Like he was having a great time with this movie, you know, like um
Sick.
but yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Okay. I mean, yourself growing up, what interests and what were some things, hobbies, that kind of held you and your friends' attention when you were coming up?
Me and my friends together, we we were troublemakers in the neighborhood, so our hobbies were not great. But my personally, I used to when I was very young, I used to make home videos. I used to make homemade Godzilla movies in my room.
Oh,
I used to
dude.
build up these entire Lego cities in my room and kind of film a whole Godzilla sequence, tear it down. I used to, paint my Godzilla characters like red for blood and stuff. And, I used to make these like crazy homemade videos, like, at like 7 or 8, just, you know, and there were rated R Godzilla movies for sure. They're really bloody. So, it says a lot at a young age making, very, horrible rated R Godzilla
Did,
movies.
did
What
you
kind of?
have like characters that you ended up ruining that you're like, damn it, why did I spray blood all over this or paint?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like literally all my action figures growing up as a kid. I actually have this little uh Mecha
Oh,
Godzilla from when I was a
oh,
kid, and he still has like the
sick.
blood on him from right there. Yeah,
So sick. It still has the old damage on it,
yeah,
just
yeah.
left with it.
Real Tom
Some
Savini, these Godzilla action figures.
Dude, what's funny too is I think it's Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. That was like there was an effect when because they were kind of like battling with Gamera at the time when like Gamera came out and it was a little bit more of a bloody
Yeah.
version.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene where I can't remember what the thing's name is, but it's on like all fours and it pulls its like
And
jowls and it starts bleeding
I
out.
was watching that movie
Yes,
recently,
yes.
and I feel that's the first Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was the first movie in the whole franchise, and I think it's like the only movie that really like got a little bloody.
Mm-hmm.
There was one point where like Mechagodzilla is like flying down at Godzilla and like kind of like does like a whole like samurai showdown, goes past him, and Godzilla's blood
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
squirts out of his neck.
yeah.
Like yeah, I'm a huge Godzilla fan.
Yo,
I
dude.
yeah,
I love that. I love that.
huge
Me,
Godzilla
me too.
fan. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And it's funny because like my buddy Ramon, who I'm in a band with, and we're longtime friends. We were talking about like certain scenes, and that came up, and he was like, "Dude, when I was a kid, that like made me sad." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy shit!" And
Yeah.
then come to find out, I've showed my kids, and both of them are like, "I don't like this part," and it's just like,
Yeah.
man, through the generations, dude, it
Yeah,
still
man.
hits.
Yeah. He like I think Mechagodzilla like tears apart Anguirus's jaw or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, it was
yeah,
really, and that's like Godzilla's boy. That's
yeah.
like
It's
best friend. So
sad.
it's heartbreaking. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, along with those figures, is there anything as far as like a tangible item that you wish that you still had from when you're young, or did you hold on to a lot of that
Um,
stuff?
you know, I really wish I had those like video files, I really
Mm,
wish I had those like
hmm.
movies, I would love to see those movies. I would love to see those movies again. Because they were epics, they were epics. I used to, stay home from school and make all that shit in my room.
Oh man,
So yeah, that's something that I really wish I had, you
God,
know.
dude,
Yeah.
and I'm a huge Godzilla guy too. I wish I would have picked up on that because we would have probably gone way too far on all. Well, let me ask. I mean, as far as those movies, how do you feel about the newer ones?
So here's the thing. The American ones, I hate. I hate I hate the American ones. I say this all the time to my friends. I feel like those movies, they don't have weight. They
Mm,
feel very weightless.
okay.
And I feel like there's something about the rubber suit movies that actually have more weight to it.
Hmm.
And I think the best Godzilla movie that I've ever seen, and it's crazy to say because it came out recently, is -1.
Oh my God, brother.
-1. Yeah,
How do you go wrong?
I
That
know.
movie from start to finish and the budget that they put into
I
that
know.
as far as pulling
Great.
that off.
It's crazy. It's one of the greatest cinematic achievements within the past like 20 years, in my opinion.
Brother.
Uh,
Oh my Lord, preach.
yeah, I was
God.
completely blown away and in tears. I wasn't expected to be in tears, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Admittedly, the human aspect is the worst part of the Godzilla movies. It's notorious with the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's a movie that I feel like if you even take away Godzilla, it would be a great like war movie, you
Dude.
know? And it like the characters in that like are probably some of my favorite characters within the past like 5 years. Like I thought they were incredible characters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Their dynamics and everything like that, and it was great. It's an awesome movie. It was like it was like Japan's Jaws, you know. It is, but yeah,
Dude.
like that's what it felt like, you know, like that little crew. It reminded me of like the Jaws cast.
Yeah.
I love that movie. That movie was incredible to me.
It was honestly like when I initially watched it, I wanted to look into, kind of behind the scenes because it felt like how they came out with 10 Cloverfield Lane and it initially was supposed to be just this underground bunker and there wasn't even the monsters that were involved. And then the,
Yeah,
the whole Cloverfield thing came a little bit later to where they tied that in. You mentioned the character development in that too. It was just like, was Godzilla just at some point tied into this? But it was like,
yeah, right,
they knocked it out of the park. I mean,
right, yeah.
front to back.
It's such an interesting concept even without Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Like a kamikaze pilot who didn't fulfill his orders and is being seen as a coward. Like what? Like you don't get that
Dude,
depth in Godzilla movies,
no.
and I feel like that really proves that it can be done. You know?
Uh, you know, and what makes me nervous is that they're saying nervous but also excited is that director is doing like a sequel or like another step with Godzilla, and I'm just like, man, this can either be amazing, or it can be a downfall, and I hope that it's amazing because I'm like, dude,
That
-1.
100% faith. I think it's gonna be incredible.
Yeah,
Whatever
I'm
that
excited.
be incredible.
Yeah, I'm excited. What can you tell us? I mean, as far as your relationship coming up and with cinemas or local video rentals, was that a big thing to you and your
Yeah.
family?
Yeah, so we had Blockbuster and we had Hollywood Video
Oh yeah.
in the neighborhood, and Hollywood Video always had all the great Godzilla movies. Blockbuster didn't, but we would go there every Friday. I would rent out a movie, and it was usually like the three movies I would usually pick out is of course the Godzilla movie, the '80s Blob movie, um, that remake, and I love that remake. I used to get that every week. And and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. That though the
Okay.
Secret of the Ooze, yeah, those were like my three movies that that I would always get. My dad would always get my dad would always get like some whatever new release there was. I still actually have a Blockbuster copy of The Town. uh, like
Awesome.
we just never returned it. But yeah, so Blockbuster and Hollywood Video was a big thing for us. Me and my dad, we would always go and see movies each week, like at the theater. So I grew up loving movies. I would see a movie every week, a new movie every week, pretty much. And my dad would take me to like literally anything. So would my grandma. Um, my grandma like did not care about like rated R or anything like that. She would just take me, and
Beautiful.
I remember her taking me to see Watchmen when I was like 9 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, and she like unflinching, like not covering my eyes at any point. But yeah, I grew up watching a lot of like horror movies and stuff. I was big into horror movies. I was introduced to those are other movies that I used to take out all the time, was the Universal monster movies. I was a big fan of Creature of the Black Lagoon growing up.
Yes.
Movies like that. We had so many of those movies on VHS as well. Um, but yeah, like I grew up pretty desensitized to horror movies, so it took me a long time to actually like feel afraid watching like a horror movie, because I used to watch them so young, and
Mm-hmm.
like I remember, my dad, you know, putting on like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and just, watching that and, as like a kid and being so into it.
Dude,
But
man.
yeah, I'm always been really desensitized to horror movies. There are very few horror movies that scared me. There's a few horror movies that still scare me to this day, but yeah, I loved horror movies growing up. That was my thing. Horror movies, big monster movies. Um, you know, pretty much everything. I've been pretty much desensitized to whatever.
I mean, what scared you, or what was something that kind of
Uh,
pushed those limits?
so so it's funny because I wasn't afraid of growing up as a kid. I wasn't afraid of Leatherface. I wasn't afraid of Jason. I wasn't afraid of Freddy, but I was deathly afraid of Chucky. Like that was the one thing. When like Sopranos was on and my dad had to watch Sopranos and he was like, "All right, John, get out of the room." He would tell me that he's putting on Chucky and I would be like, "I'm out." Like fuck this shit. If my dad like wanted me gone, he's like, "All right, I'm gonna put on Chuck. I'm gonna put on Child's Play." I'm like, "Oh fuck that shit. I'm out." That scared the shit out of me. Like I remember my cousin, who was actually the same age, had a Chucky doll in her room, and I was like, "You keep that fucking thing in your closet," you know?
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I was terrified of Chucky. Chucky scared the shit out of me growing up.
I mean, there's something about horror too that in any angle
Yeah,
or aspect, it plays on somebody's fear. It plays on somebody's emotion, and to kind of deflect. I mean, as far as like you mentioned, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first time that I saw that, it physically like made me sick.
oh yeah,
Just the motion of the camera and the environment. I mean, everything just felt so grisly, and that was something too that I saw even like fleshing through as far as Ketchup on Waffles, as like this environment that everybody's in. It did not look comfortable. It did not look, anything exciting. Like these people are having fun. I mean, obviously behind the scenes having a good time,
yeah.
shooting, but you see the material and you're like, oh,
No, and
this is rough.
there, like we'll get more to Ketchup on Waffles in a bit, but there is like a a really disturbing soundscape that goes through the entire movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot of just screaming and crying
Mm-hmm.
as the soundscape throughout the movie, and yeah, I think that's like what kind of adds to that like disturbing kind of factor, and with Texas Chainsaw Massacre there is a lot of screaming and a lot of like it almost gets to the point where everything is just screaming and ketchup and waffles,
Yeah.
and same goes for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where like the third act of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just screaming
Yeah.
and it's yelling. So yeah, I love the comparison,
Yeah,
definitely.
so I mean, within this realm and this love for horror that we both have, and and coming up and being kids, what are a couple of scenes, maybe three scenes, in or out of horror that come to mind as far as just being forever ingrained in your brain?
So
Something gross, crazy. What comes to mind there?
yeah, so I would say the scene that has always scared me, and I think it has the most terrifying shot in all of cinema, is the Jaws lagoon scene. When it starts off, the
Dude.
sharks in the lagoon, and there's a moment where the guy who loses his leg gets knocked off his boat, and he's hanging on the side of his boat, and underneath the water, just below the surface, you see the shark coming up at him, and you see like the jaws pretty much surround him, and I think that shot, like looking down from a bird's eye view of seeing the shark underneath the water, and it doesn't even it's crazy, it doesn't even look like a real great white shark, but it's
Dude.
scarier than what a great white shark looks like in that shot. And it really is the moment where I'm like, this is a fucking monster movie. Like, and it has scared me ever since. It's that one shot that has made me afraid to go into the water. I think that shot is the scariest shot in all of cinema.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is fucking terrifying scene just below the surface, and like, you know, that guy's so clueless hanging off the side of his
Yeah.
boat. Um, Another scene I would say that like really affected me. I actually when this movie came out, I was working in a hospital, and I remember seeing imagery that was like very similar to it. Was in Midsommar, the elder sacrifice scene.
Mm,
Seeing the person's like the that elderly person's head cave in when it hits the rock.
hmm
That never left my mind. And I remember specifically working at a hospital during that time, and specifically being around in the trauma unit and seeing something that was very
Oh,
similar. And I I almost had to leave the theater. I felt like sick. Like I
oh
felt like, oh,
man.
yeah. Yeah, it was really, like in that moment I was like, holy shit. I was like, that feels so fucking real.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that really fucked me up, that one scene. And um, another scene that I think is really disturbing is in Gummo, the spaghetti, the bathtub scene. He's eating the spaghetti. There's disturbing things that happen in that movie. You
Yeah.
know, like a guy pimping out his sister and like stuff like that. But the spaghetti bath scene is by far like the most disturbing scene in that movie. I'm a huge Gummo fan. I have the Gummo tattoo right here.
Oh shit.
Um, but
Awesome.
yeah, but that scene right there is so disturbing to me. At one point, the mom brings him like a chocolate bar that these two kids were selling from outside, and she's eating the chocolate bar in the bath, and the bath water is just disgusting looking. It's like murky as hell. And then he drops the chocolate bar into the bath water and then proceeds to eat the chocolate bar. I was like, this is fucking nasty. Yeah, that by far is like, you know, the most disturbing scene in that movie, and you know, it's a scene that has stuck with me forever. But yeah, those three scenes: the Midsommar Elder Sacrifice scene, the Gummo Spaghetti scene, and that Jaws Lagoon scene. Yeah,
Dude, I love it. And it's a great spread. You know, I mean, Gummo, one movie that I had sold years ago and I regret ever since because I haven't. I'm big on trying to find things in store if I can. I have an awesome
right.
video store, here in town, and
Oh,
if I can, try and. But Julian Donkey Boy, I don't know why I'd sold it years ago, but dude, have you seen that one?
I never have. That's the one screen that I haven't
God,
watched. Yeah, yeah.
ridiculous.
Marine fan, and you could tell that from my work.
Hmm
But Julian Donkey Boy is next on my watch list for sure. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it is. I mean, just as terrible as it is great, I mean, in that same vein with Gummo, and I feel like Gummo, like that was kind of a time too where maybe even early on into me seeing like real indie shit, like kind of seeing like a low budget, what the fuck are these guys, doing? How did this even get made, type thing where it made things a little bit more practical of seeing like, my friends and I being able to like make something and actually, go out, which we never did. I mean, we had fun with like making home videos and shit like that, but it's always interesting, like seeing stuff like that and that early on. I mean, that was like the mid '90s, late '90s.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it was more towards the late '90s. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, and overly ridiculous. I love that you mentioned that too, because Gummo is. I got to revisit that
I
sometime
love God.
soon.
Yeah. It's something interesting to me because it doesn't. It's one of the first movies that I watched that really doesn't have a like a true narrative to it. It's just
Sure.
like moments,
hmm
you know. And I think Harmony Korine like kind of capturing these moments is almost makes it like a narrative, and
hmm
I think that's part of his genius with those earlier movies. I have no fucking clue what he's doing right now with the new movies that he's making, but you know, with those older movies, I think he's a genius.
Did
Yeah.
you see Spring Breakers?
Yeah, yeah, I love Spring Breakers. I actually just saw the re-release of Spring Breakers in IMAX. They had a re-release.
What?
A had a re-release of Spring Breakers, yeah. And me and my friend saw it for the first time in IMAX recently. I It was funny. So my two cousins, my two older cousins, took me to see that when I was like 13, and that whole theater was like smoked out. You know, like Like I was getting like a secondhand high in that. Everybody was just feeling it. It was like, came out during the time, like around the time of spring break. And that whole theater was so baked out of the mind. Smoke coming from all the seats. That's one of my favorite theater experiences.
Oh,
I remember
Jesus.
like all of us like walking to the theater with our eyes like, beat red. Spring break. Spring break forever.
Dude, it was so ridiculous. I mean, I loved it, and I loved because I was aware of Riff Raff,
Yeah,
like that rapper and actor and different
yeah.
things, and so like seeing oh my God, James
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 Franco. Yeah.
Franco, yeah, seeing him like taking on that personality, it was just like, oh my God, this
Look at
is
my shit.
insane. It was crazy. I would hope at some point Harmony Korine would work with Riff Raff just because it would be like
Yeah.
that extra level of like detail. Like,
I
I don't
mean,
know what
I
he
mean,
would do, but
he pretty much is Riff Raff.
right, right,
Yeah, I
whole personality.
have to be like the muse is Riff Raff. You know, I remember reading like an interview saying that like Kareem, he like wrote that movie down in Miami, and he wrote and made sure that like it really captured that whole like Florida kind of crime world, and he did that perfectly. That movie seeing that movie again is so awesome, and seeing like
And
people,
IMAX,
yeah, seeing it in an IMAX is
that
crazy. That
that
opening
is.
with the Skrillex, and I was like, this fucking rocks. Seeing it in IMAX. Yeah, didn't expect it to hit as hard as it did in IMAX, but it did. It was my favorite. Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
that's
me and my
insane.
friends were like the only ones in the theater seeing that in IMAX. So we had a whole IMAX theater to ourselves seeing that shit.
Wow.
But yeah, it was great. Yeah,
That's incredible. I mean, and as far as you kind of mentioned, like I always love digging into irrational fears and different things like that. Where it's like, I'm in Michigan, and Jaws, like you mentioned, was a huge thing for me. Where it was like sharks in the water and all this shit. And for the longest time, it was a thing where I'm like, oh well, there's not going to be sharks in the lake. It's not going to be
yeah.
a thing until there was sharks in the lake, and now like that happens. Like bull sharks swim up through the fucking river, and so
It's the most dangerous kind of shark too.
not excited.
Yeah, little shark fact for everybody.
Yeah, dude, not great. Now I mean, anything else come to mind as far as, I mean, you mentioned Child's Play. You
Yeah.
mentioned, like a killer doll. Like, does anything pop up in your head?
My that's Child's Play was that movie that really gave me that irrational fear. I was scared of Jeepers Creepers when I was a kid too. That was
Sure.
like those were the big two was Jeepers Creepers and and Chucky. My dad used to scare me with like Jeepers Creepers, especially specifically Jeepers Creepers 2 scared the shit out of me growing up, like fly around and shit. My dad used to like scare me whenever we were on like a road trip driving through the country. Be like, "Oh, Jeepers Creepers!" I was like, "Where the fuck is that?" Like, um, yeah, I was definitely afraid of Jeepers Creepers and Chucky. Chucky more so. Like I remember there was like this like themed deli that was like around us. And this deli had like a Chucky doll too. Like it was like there was like a bunch of like different superheroes and like around this deli. It was like a superhero deli, and they had a Chucky doll too. And like I was like, keep that fucking thing away from me. Like Chucky was just the thing. I wasn't afraid of much, like I mentioned, but definitely
That does it.
Chucky. Yeah,
Dude, oh my God. I mean, one aspect I loved hearing, I mean, as far as you being from Long Island, is local lore. I love, kind of hearing of like kids with having houses around town that maybe you had to go across the street, or neighbors that you knew that was, something going on, and found out that there was
yeah.
something going on later in
Yeah.
life. Do you have anything, I mean, as far as any hauntings or anything that you've experienced
Um.
from Long Island?
So I was a big bullshitter growing up. I was a big bullshitter with like my friends, like as a kid, um,
Mm.
and like I used to make up lore around the neighborhood. Like we'd be riding, and I was like,
Okay.
that house over there, like lives an ancient, like shit like that. So I didn't really have too much local lore, but I will
Okay.
say this. I don't know how like, well, it's big, national news, but like a town away from me lived the Gilgo Beach killer, the guy who they caught as the
Oh,
Gilgo.
really?
Yeah, he lives in the next town over. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh.
when they caught him, we all like went down to like his block and like we were like, like all like staring at his house and stuff. They had the whole house taped off and everything. It's like literally like 5 minutes down the road from me, um, where
Whoa.
that guy lived. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Did he do stuff at his house too? I mean,
Um,
I'm somewhat familiar, but
I I I'm not really quite sure. Like
uh,
so much. I don't think he was like they arrested him and stuff like that. But I think there's I think there's so much still too deep to be determined with it. But he's like
okay.
custody and everything. Yeah, since that's been like not last summer, but the summer before. I think
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
Oh
So
shit, dude.
I remember when they were finding the bodies along that parkway, along Ocean Parkway, near Jones Beach by me, and I was about 11 at the time when they started finding the bodies, and you would drive down that parkway, and you would see the arrows to each spot along the like graffitied along the parkway
Oh,
where each body was found. Yeah,
oh,
yeah, in like the marsh.
dude.
Yeah,
Fuck,
yeah. So that
man.
motherfucker lives, just 5 minutes away from me.
Oh man,
Yeah,
dude, that is so intense. God.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and I'm, someone I love horror, I love, all these, but when it comes to the real life shit, or even like my friends when we were younger wanted to like watch like Rotten.com and Gorish, I'm just
yeah.
like, I don't want to see this stuff,
I,
man.
I know, I know. It,
I
it,
I have fun
but
with monster movies and shit, and like the serial killers from afar, but I'm like, that shit hitting home.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not fun.
I, I like like in terms of like horror, I'm super desensitized, but in terms of real life stuff, like I get really bothered by that shit quickly.
Yeah.
I remember being in high school and my friend being like, "Yo, check out this like live leak video." I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to see that
Mm,
shit," like what the fuck.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Like that's that guy like who they made a Netflix movie. They just recently made a Netflix documentary about him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it's crazy too that it was a cold case for a very long time. Um, and something they got like I think they caught him from a pizza crust, from DNA on a pizza crust that he left behind. Yeah, and that's
Oh shit.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Damn. Fucking pizza crust, dude. You
yeah.
can't trust anything.
I know, fucking crazy. And like I think like there was like a list that he made, like like listing all of his precautions and like before he would go out killing and stuff, and like like things to do. And it's crazy that it always ends up being something like just so small like that ends up getting somebody caught. Like this guy was like super careful, and then like just so happened that like he had like DNA that matched from like his pizza crust that he threw away, that the cops grabbed, that caught him.
Shit.
Yeah, fucking nuts.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah,
Man, oh man. Dude. And there's always different things too, like even, slightly like off from that, but like there's a house like in our neighborhood, where like a family had moved in and they've had people after people that live there. And my neighbor had told me like over the years, there's been two different people that have killed themselves in this
oh,
house.
shit,
And like my
dude.
kids always have friends that, like, oh, they go to school and like, oh, I want to go over and play. And I'm like,
Yeah,
not that one. No,
right.
they can come over here, but
Yeah,
I don't know what's gonna partake.
something like that. Yeah, some shit. Yeah,
Now, you and yeah, I mean, you've mentioned as far as taking part in a digital filmmaking class and having that opportunity in school. And what benefits do you think that you kind of took out of something from that, and maybe even something that kind of hindered a little bit of your scope today?
So I really like saw that class. Like that digital filmmaking class was in my high school.
Mm.
And there was two courses on it. It was DF1, Digital Filmmaking 1, and Digital Filmmaking 2, which was like the next year. And I think like what was so great about that class was that it really showed that like this is something that is realistic and possible that you could do, as
Mm.
like a career. Because I never really thought of it as such. Like, I would make movies and stuff like around, the neighborhood and stuff like that. But I never really saw it as like an actual career, like as a possibility. And I think that class really showed that it was possible. And, I also like I think something that it really was great was that it was like such a collaborative
Mm.
experience. It was like a team making process. And the first year, the first course, it was like you make like a bunch of short films like throughout the year, and you do like certain like editing tasks and stuff like that. But then the second year, the whole course was that you and the entire class together make a big feature film,
Oh wow.
and it was incredible. Like it was a really incredible experience. And like being a teenager, I was like 16. And so like it's kind of cool that like we made this movie from this like class, and then it like went on to like film festivals and everything. It's not particularly like a movie that's like great by any means. Like it's very much a high school film, but like it has like that feature runtime. And it really showed that like it was that collaborative experience, and that's what really counts. And it's something that I'm really grateful for. And it like really that those two courses kind of prepared me for the real world, and like for like taking on filmmaking. Like I didn't go to film school.
Mm.
I graduated and went straight to work. I
Mm.
and that was like a big thing for me. Like I graduated and I went straight on to like the film world of like working and stuff like that. And with that being said, like I've had jobs over the years that weren't like necessarily filmmaking, but like I still kept true to that, like to that to those like filmmaking classes, and had filmmaking jobs throughout the years and set experience. And without those classes, I really didn't think any of this would be possible. So I'm really grateful for those two courses. Yeah.
Yeah.
100. Yeah.
Dude, and being able to get like a feature off the ground too, and being like,
Yeah.
uh, especially in high school, like you think of certain aspects of having to take biology and fucking all this
Yeah.
stuff, and like being able to take on some stuff like that. Like my high school never had anything like that. Like we had like a video design or something like that, where it was like the morning news and shit, but it was
Mm.
like
That's yeah.
not
Yeah.
anything great.
And that's common. And I just felt so fortunate to have that class. It's funny because I really like like I said, like I just didn't think it was ever a possibility. And there's so many people like that graduate high school and they go straight to film school. But like I felt like I learned everything.
Mm.
Like I remember applying to film schools like New York Film Academy and different things, and getting accepted, and then realizing like I'm learning everything that I've already learned before. you
Mm.
know um and something that I also like would tell people is that those classes really let you have your own vision. They really let you have your own creativity sprout. And from what I hear from a lot of like film schools, that's not really the case. And
Mm-hmm.
I like I said, just grateful for that. And I was a troublemaker in high school. Like I was in summer school every year. I never I just passed classes, or I either had to go to summer school because I failed the classes. But those filmmaking courses, you know, were really important to me, and that was like the only class that I actually really locked into and like took seriously.
Well, it's cool to have that opportunity
Yeah.
too, because I mean, like every kid. Obviously, this is going to be kind of a broad, statement, but every kid learns
Yeah.
differently, and to be able to have those different
Or
aspects or different, like opportunities, to where it kind of pushes you, whether it's sports or whether
Yeah.
it's, theater of some sort.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, that's sick
Yeah.
that they have something like that.
Yeah. I mean, film school is great. Get your degree and everything like that. But I think also the greatest teacher you could have being a filmmaker is experience. And
Mm-hmm.
on-set experience. Um, and I think that's most important is getting that experience. And throughout the years, like since I graduated high school, I've just learned so much over the years from like being on sets and everything like that. And it's important, it's important going into like making a feature film is to
Mm.
pretty much have that set experience for sure.
Now, do you, like going from that and kind of digging into your first projects, was your scope more so directing initially, or I mean, you act, you edit, score, you have different
So,
hands in the pot there.
so I feel like I directing and writing have always been my two biggest things, and growing up, like not growing up, making these movies, like being on like a sense of like restraint with budgets, I kind of like self-learned other tasks. I'm not a musician. I'm not a trained, I was never a trained actor. So I would kind of like self-teach myself all these things and kind of pick up from other set experience, going into taking on these different tasks. Like, I never wanted to be like a cinematographer or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to write and direct. I wanted to be a storyteller more than anything else. And um, I, learning like from set experience was so helpful. Taking on these other tasks that I initially had no intention of doing,
Mm.
and also I think the greatest teacher was also making movies on like a very limited budget because you
Mm.
have to force yourself to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to pick up on like making music and stuff like that and kind of create my own style with it. And a lot of it was just crazy sounds until I got something right, and it still is. Like I couldn't tell you a single like note on a piano or anything like that. It's just more so of me making my own kind of like learnings from it, and teaching myself, and like, oh, this sounds similar to that, and so I would just keep playing until I got the good music going. I'm not by no means a musician, but um it's great to like see like something like actually come together and be like, oh shit, this is a song. Like being like self-teaching is important, but also like I like if you're going to be a musician, learn how to be a fucking musician because it's very frustrating, not knowing how to play a piano or not knowing how to play a guitar or something like that, and trying to score a movie.
Right, right.
But yeah, yeah.
It's, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, just as far as the hands in the pot with film in general,
Mhm.
and how many different aspects, how many different people are involved, and it's one of the things I appreciate, the most about having these conversations with
Right.
people is being able to talk to set designers and and cinematographers and someone who scores, and
Yeah.
uh, it's incredible, man, the amount of like details and different things, and even something. I mean, acting wise, like having Double Dog there, it's like that's deep.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
I appreciate.
Haggard material.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think if you love movies enough, and I've heard somebody say this before, if you love movies enough, you can't help but make a good movie.
Sure.
And
Okay.
I think that's also the case. Just the best studying you could do is also just watching movies, and watching movies and learning things, and like look at Ketchup on Waffles. The influences are clear as day, and so is Double Dog Dare, and anything else I make. Like the influences are all there, and if you love movies enough, you, like I said, you can't help but make a fucking movie.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
yeah,
And it's a true test, even, hearing stories like, Quentin Tarantino, for instance, and just like this guy being the biggest, movie nerd working in a video
yep,
shop, memorizing the backs of tapes, and then having, the fruitful career that he's had, from exactly that,
Yeah.
obviously like film school and different aspects or whatever. I don't even know if he went to film school, but
I
I,
don't
I
think
will
he did.
say
Yeah.
no. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just that passion and that love for things, and I dug through like, your work. The one that I've had to, kind of build myself up on is Loving Polly.
Yeah.
The material there, I was like,
It's crazy. It's
all
crazy.
right.
That was a movie that literally had zero dollars like behind it. It had zero budget. We were working with extremely broken equipment, and for this day that the equipment is super broken. I actually broke the mic, like, I broke the mic from like screaming so loud in that movie. It's like, there's movies like that I've made where, like, not necessarily I'm proud of, but like I feel like they really, kind of like launched me forward. And like there's so many movies that like, you know, you look back on with like different filmmakers and like when they're starting out and they're not really great. And I think, it but like you see the little like pieces, like the puzzle pieces and the
Mm-hmm.
foundation that, like, it builds up. And I think that's extremely, important. And even to just have that movie out there was great. It's not a movie that I'm necessarily proud of anymore. It's a movie that I think, could have been made better and stuff like that. But like honestly, like it's something that I'm proud of in the sense that, like, okay, like I've made it, and without that, like, there wouldn't be Ketchup and Waffles. Without that, there wouldn't be Double Dog Dare. Um, and I think, like, it was kind of like a trial run, and
Mm-hmm.
that's important. That's important with movies. And if you feel like, being a filmmaker, if you feel like that your movie sucks, and like, as you're making it, just fucking make it anyway, put it out. You don't know like what it's going to lead to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like most of what I made from Loving Polly was putting ketchup on waffles. And so, like, you never know like what this movie that you're not confident in could lead to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's a stamp in time, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a stamp in time,
of
where not necessarily to look back on regret, but just to think of like there are certain aspects that maybe you're not excited with.
yeah,
Well, then the next thing, up that
yeah,
part.
yeah, exactly. It's a learning experience, and it's that's something great with this whole world of filmmaking, is that everything is the learning experience. Like I said, like the on-set experiences and everything like that. But yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I should say too, it was more so the material. It wasn't,
yeah,
the trailer or the bits I saw. It was the material where I was like, okay,
yeah. It
I'm gonna build myself up, and I'm going to watch this one here, but I'm gonna wait for the right day.
it is. I'll say this: it is the most demented film I've made, and it is definitely the darkest, film I made. And it's gross, it's nasty, it's vile. I can't say I really had a good time making it, just because of the character I played. I gained 40 pounds for it. I put on so much weight for it. I
Jesus.
shaved my head. Yeah. It won best horror film. It won best actor at a couple film festivals. But other than that, like, it's a movie that, like, I literally cannot watch because I just feel so uncomfortable. I don't even know how much longer it's going to be on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
because it's gross. It's a gross movie. And the movie I watch, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, like I just don't see myself as that anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as that character. But yeah, it's a movie that I would kind of, go in with a lot of caution and just be like, all right, like, like, keep in mind that it was super low budget. It's more of like a trial run, I would say that movie is. And
Sure.
like I said, I'm still immensely proud of what came out of it. But yeah, man, and I'm proud of, the awards that it got, but I cannot watch that movie. I can't blame you if you can't watch that movie too, because it is fucking dark. It's fucking, it's a nasty one. It's really nasty. It's as vile as a movie can be. Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, you touch on, precautionary, and what we get with ketchup on waffles automatically is just a big stamp. Where did that idea come from of telling people like brace yourself?
Um. So like what? How do you mean? Like you mean like
The very beginning of the movie and saying this is a fucked up movie. This
okay,
is, you know,
uh,
that title card basically.
yeah. So I mean, it's a movie that Ketchup on Waffles. It goes hard. It really does, and it's a movie that really is, you know, like at 100% when it gets to 100%, and it just doesn't let up from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so I would say like like it's a movie that I felt like was important to kind of make though, like in the beginning. And I wanted to kind of make something that was like a relevant evil, you know
Mm-hmm.
and really showcase the misguidance of our youth in this generation, and how social media and how different things affect people, and show the worst kind of example of somebody being misguided. And like that kind of like you know extremity that this film has is completely necessary, because I feel like it is something that really isn't shock just for the sake of shock. It's something that is more so like showcasing like how horrible, and like being really honest with it, like how horrible these cases of mass incidents are, and getting into like the kind of aspects of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that was just one of the things that like caught me. You know, that was interesting was right off the bat. You know, it's like this movie is fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
brace yourself. This
Yeah.
movie is seriously no. Hold on a second. If you need to rewind it, this is fucked up.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a like it's a movie that is telling you right off the bat, like, this is evil shit. And it has this evil shit, but it's evil shit that has happened before in our own lives. And like
Mm,
and something that we've seen on the news, or whether we've personally experienced. It's something that is very could be very triggering to a lot of people. And
mm.
so that warning, as humorous as it comes off in the beginning, it
Pays
is,
off.
yeah, it pays off. And it's not bullshitting you. Like, this movie is extremely fucked up. Like, this movie is as fucked up as it could be. Yeah.
Can you bring us back to building the foundation, writing this, having this idea, and and how this all came about?
Yeah, so like I said, I wanted to make something that has something that's like a relevant kind of evil.
Mm,
Uh, something that showcased uh, misguided youth, and the worst aspects of it, and how being a teenager when horrible incidents occurred, like Parkland or Pulse nightclub
mm,
shootings, and like being a teenager in high school during that time, being afraid to go to school every day. It really brought me back to around that time of being a teenager, during like the time of Parkland, or around the time of Parkland, and being afraid. And I wanted, yeah,
Columbine.
Columbine.
Yeah.
I wanted to showcase just the horrors of that, and
Mm,
just the horrors of mass casualty incidents, um and the fear of being in public spaces. And it's not
mm,
just schools, it's grocery stores. Like people are afraid to go places, where like we don't feel safe. It's our comfort is being disturbed. Um there's people who were enjoying a concert, and a shooter comes in and starts shooting up the concert. Like, it's this film, I wanted to make something that really showcased that, and your comfort being disturbed. And that's the main theme of this movie, is disturbing the comfort, and showcasing that, and like bringing awareness to that, and bringing I wanted also to make something that really felt like um that could conflict the viewer.
mm,
Something that is as that is edited and made like a comedy, but at the same time like you're kind of wondering, you're like, why did I just laugh at that? Like why? Oh, like it's something that that really challenges you, you know, and
Uh-huh.
really makes you question yourself and like how serious these incidents are, you know, and it does challenge you. You know, there's people that I've seen like critic reviews that have came out on this movie that will say like I don't see how this is a comedy. This isn't like, you know, this isn't comedy. It's incredibly like they liked it, you know, and they loved it, and they said that like, oh, this isn't like, you know, somebody would ask, is this a comedy? And the reviewer would be like, you know, I don't. If you think this is a comedy, what does this say about yourself? Like, you know, and that's the question had it like asks is like, you know, if you like it challenges you and it kind of makes you feel something, um and that's kind of like what I wanted to go into it with, you know, like building this foundation. I'm like, okay, I need to make a story here that really challenges the viewer and makes them, you know, conflicted while they're watching it, whether to laugh
Mm-hmm.
about what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that's it's as bleak as a dark comedy could get. It's as dark as a dark comedy could get. But yeah, it's that's like that's a big thing with it, you know, and that's something that I really wanted to kind of showcase is like, you know, the relevance of everything. And you see social media like comment sections and everything, there is such a bleak humor to a lot of comment sections, and there's so much like darkness to social media, and I feel like I wanted to kind of capture that too, you know, and capture just every aspect of like our world, and like, you know, being mad at each other. And you know, what this film pretty much is that there's an argument to be had about situations like this, you know, whether it's gun control, mental health issue. And it's not a film that really takes sides on one way or the other. It's a film that really reminds us what we're arguing about, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And like, like, you know, I wanted to make something that felt like a catalyst for change, in the sense that like, okay, like let's stop the yelling. Let's just come to a middle ground and figure something out, because these incidents are happening, and they're happening so much that, you know, that it's not even like big news when it happens anymore.
Yeah,
Like
right.
we don't hear it as much as we used to anymore, and it's not even like breaking news so much anymore. Like when we hear something about a mass shooting or like people getting shot in the streets, like it's 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 sad and it's depressing, but like it's horrible to know that, you know, it's not being um I feel like it's not really being taken seriously. Like we yell at each other, and that's serious. Like, you know, we hear these conflicting sides, but it's not. We're not actually taking serious measures to get things done. And I feel like that's you know, that again, that's something that I wanted to showcase with this movie, as well as making something that will like conflict you on your own. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. And I mean, I think, I guess, like 2 points. You know, one being, as far as you just mentioned about the whole aspect. I've always wondered too, because so many times these cases are somebody that, you know, is looking for attention.
Hmm.
If the media coverage of these things is kind of, you know, a little bit more of a gasoline
Hmm.
to these incidences, you know, and where,
Yeah.
if it's, I mean, as sad as shocking and horrible as these things are, I've always kind of wondered, you know, I'm like, man, I wonder if this is like detrimental in the fact of that it's now all over the news and it's everywhere. And it's like, you know, maybe that could be an aspect of what this person, you know,
Yeah.
wanted and didn't have the attention or different things. And I guess
Yeah.
it's a, you know, separate conversation and kind of controversial, but
Yeah. I mean,
another, oh, go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Sorry. I think like a lot of like bringing up that point, like I think a lot of these like, you know, shooters, they have like an agenda, you know, they have an agenda and they want to push that, and so that's something that is like, you know, very kind of important to them going into that. And you know, like you'll look at like, you know, some shooter, and it turns out he's like a horrible racist or something like that, and he's
Mm-hmm.
doing this because for like racial motives. And it's, you know, I feel like that is very that's a great point you bring up there about like, them wanting that attention too.
Hmm.
Like you look at serial killers and, a lot of times like reported they love the attention that they got. Like I think there was a show Mindhunters,
Oh yeah.
and they actually touched up on that, like how like the
Hmm.
serial killers love the attention that they got. And I'm pretty sure, the guy that lives 5 minutes away from me, the Go-Go killer, he like had like newspaper clippings that he would take,
Mm,
and so yeah, they see themselves as, celebrities, and that's horrible. It's horrible. So
yeah.
yeah, that's a great point that you just brought
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of what just one of those things that I've just always kind of picked up on, and that exact thing where I think it was BTK or somebody who notoriously would write into like newspapers and would kind of write into like police stations and almost kind of like taunting like different aspects, and it's that attention, and I'm like, that could be an angle where it's I mean, unfortunate, because obviously you want to cover that and you want to let
Yeah.
people know that's the news, is what is going on, but
Yeah.
also maybe a detrimental aspect to an
Yeah.
incident
I
like
mean,
that.
look at the main character of Ketchup on Waffles, and look at you know
Yeah.
that guy is definitely a guy that is doing this for, like, an aspect of it is doing this for attention,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing I was going to mention too, very unique to this experience, was you mentioned the kind of black comedy aspect to this, and there were certain moments where I felt like I was laughing, and I would kind of question in the back of my head, like, am I laughing to comfort myself,
Right.
like as like a means of
Mm.
like settling down from material that you're sitting through, or was that funny, And I would kind of like think back and like, no, that's pretty fucking funny actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you're
You
like
don't want
that's
to laugh,
yeah, that's the
because I
thing.
mean, like, of what's going on, but
You're
it's
not a
like,
horrible person for finding, this movie funny. Like, you're really not. Like, it's more of like a trap,
yeah,
and it's like a try not to laugh. The
yeah.
movie try not to laugh at times. And there's there's moments where in this movie where like the characters would say things, they would completely, the actors would completely improv stuff, and like I would be cracking up behind the camera. Like the camera would, like, like I was doing like the camera operating, and I was like cracking up trying to hold the camera. Um, but yeah, yeah, like it like that's the thing with this movie. Like, you're definitely not like a bad person. Like, it is, like, if you find this movie funny, like, there's so many. Like I said before, like my dad was like cracking up like Max Cady in the movie theater, like,
But that's
like that.
the whole idea with
Yeah,
black comedy.
yeah,
I mean, as a subgenre in general, is that
yeah,
oftentimes it's in a dark situation that you're not supposed to find something
yeah,
humorous. And even if you think of like a bank robbery and somebody over there farts, it's like, well, that's still funny, even though I'm being held at gunpoint.
yeah,
And it's like you're gonna try to
exactly.
figure out what you can
Yeah,
do.
yeah, exactly.
No,
Like,
I mean, no, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, that's just what I find so funny. Like, that's what I find so funny when these like people who've seen the movie were like, yeah, it's not a comedy, like, or like, yeah,
Mm,
that, like, you see somebody say, yeah, that's not a comedy, and then you see somebody say that movie was fucking hilarious. Like it's going back to like the love thing.
mhm.
Like, it's really just, it's one extreme or the other, and
Sure.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's the audience too, though. Sometimes where it's how it's you might be mentally prepared for. Whereas like somebody that think of, for instance, all the people that went to go see Demi Moore in The Substance, and they're like so excited, and they hate the movie because they're like, well, what the fuck is this? This isn't what I was signing up for, and it's amazing. It is
yeah.
absolutely like mind blowing. So it's just, I think sometimes two people might have had a different idea of what they were coming into, but like I say, those opening credits, it told you.
Yeah, it definitely tells you.
Literally.
Yeah, it tells you. It really, like, right off the bat. Like, it was important for me to get like the comedy. Like, it's like, being 1,000% dead ass. This movie is fucked up. Like, one of the title cards in the beginning. Like, it, it's it it really like gives you the entire movie right off the bat with just that one title card, because it shows you that this movie is fucked up, but it tells you that it's fucked up in a very humorous kind of way.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it interpret it however you
Yeah.
want, Yeah.
Now, I mean, bring us back to day one. What was accomplished as far as on set there.
So, what was accomplished? So, the thing that I love about making Ketchup on Waffles was that we shot it all chronologically.
Oh,
So,
okay.
it looked like everything was happening real time for us almost. Um, so, we shot like, all the kind of like the, the, the scenes, in the beginning with like the dormitory, the scene, the scenes at the beach and everything like that. Like that was all like day one and like moving on forward, and we shot every event chronologically from there.
Mm,
And so it really felt like the movie was unfolding for us, and so that was awesome. Like, and it was important for me to keep it chronological,
hmm
to keep all of the film chronological and everything like that. Like, because I wanted people to really like, I wanted my actors to feel more immersed as possibly as I can, and I feel like them being us shooting it in chronological order like really helped that
mm,
kind of helped that kind of immersion for the actors. Yeah.
sure. Okay. Okay. And especially with something like home invasion or something that, maybe not even along those lines, but I feel like that though sometimes is difficult, is something that is important as far as for story and for people that are like going through the kind of subtle, like uptick in the extremity of what's going on.
Hmm.
I feel like that shows here, and you mentioning that, like, that makes sense because by the time, you're finding more exhaustion, you're
Yeah.
finding more, okay, we've gone through the lulls of the initial, like, stick up, so to speak, and
Yeah.
now we're kind of in the moments of that there's talking and, oh, somebody just got killed, and now
Mhm.
we're kind of at that, it's this real kind of back and forth emotional draw where you're really trying to find yourself, like, okay, how am I going to be comfortable and how the fuck am I going to get out of here.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
long was the shoot?
Um, so I'm trying to, so all the diner stuff took us like 4 days to shoot.
Okay.
Um, Everything prior was another 4 days. So 8 days in general is an 8 day shoot. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and so we got it all done within those 8 days. And the film is a 30-page script.
Oh,
So if you
wow, no
yeah,
shit.
so if you take into facts like like they say that like a page of a script equals 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So taking into the fact of how much improv we did,
Damn.
and it going to be like an hour and 20 minutes, like it's crazy. Like it's crazy how much improv we did within those 4 days. Like we were like literally the days of the shoot, we were thinking of like some way like this person could die over here or something like that. Like we were coming up with like creative kind of like ways that like somebody could die or something like that, and we like our makeup artist was on standby for like literally anything. Our makeup artist Danny, shout out Danny, she's great. um yes, she like she was on standby for like literally anything, and that also helped with us shooting it in chronological order. Is that like we're like, okay, like we're gonna get you next, they're gonna get the characters next, and like it added so much to it, like and it just really helped out the whole process. But yeah, so it was an 8 day shoot. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure like if you take into account of how much improv we did, probably like 4 of those 8 days like is probably just improv, like
Wow. No
yeah, yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
Was that something like even in the writing process that you had had like a conversation with yourself as far as including improv, or was it kind of initially set to be a 30 to 40 minute
Uh,
short?
no, no. I knew it was going to be a feature right off the bat.
Okay.
I didn't know how much improv we were going to do, but I knew that we were going to do a lot of improv. It's just a given with my movies at this point that we're just going to improv the fuck out of it. We
Okay.
have fun, and it definitely it adds to like the chaos, the chaotic feel, and you get a sense of like these characters, and you feel that they're in this like state of mania when this is going on, and they're like deep down they're probably thinking like, holy fuck, this is really happening right now. Like the I'm talking about the killers
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and I think that kind of adds to the improv because they're saying shit that's just absolutely fucking crazy. Off, like they're gonna be like when they're manic, they're gonna be saying shit that doesn't even make sense half the
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought there was a great sense of authenticity to the improv, and to have the improv, and to really have these actors like feel for themselves, and really have these actors kind of like like have this kind of, like I said before, immersion that they're in this moment right now, and they're freaking the fuck out, and they're gonna say whatever comes to the tip of their tongue. Like they're saying shit, and they're saying shit to people that like doesn't make any sense at all at points, like, and like people are like terrified because and the fact that they're not saying the fact that they're saying shit that doesn't make any sense at all makes it so much scarier,
Yeah.
you know
And puts it in the moment
yeah,
too. I mean, it makes it feel like it's
yeah,
disjointed. It's, these people that don't really have an idea of, the outcome of this, and that
yeah,
maybe had jumped into a situation that they're like rethinking at moments, what the fuck did I get myself into?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
oh man.
Like this is
What,
go ahead. Yeah.
what, 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 what diner allowed this? Where was the shot? Or if that's
So
not allowed, if you can't touch on that, that's fine. I don't want to put
yeah.
that out there.
So I've been going to this diner for like 20 years. I love this diner so much. I really grew up on this
Jesus.
food. Yeah. I really grew up, and you know I met with the owner, great guy, by the way. Like I love this diner. It's like just integrated into my life. I'm there like every week. It's like kind of like David Lynch to Bob's Big Boys is
Uh,
me to this
uh,
diner.
okay.
Yeah, like I love this diner, and the diner owner, like I came to him asking him if I could do this movie, and he's like, all right. He's like, listen. He's like, is this movie like really violent? He's like, because I don't know if I really want that energy in here, and you know I'm the wrong person to kind of ask if it's really violent because, like I said before, I'm super desensitized to this stuff. I'm like, you know what? There's violence in it. It, it it's pretty bad. In terms of the graphicness, but it's nothing like my previous films. I think it will be all right. I'll keep it respectable. And
Oh boy.
he knows I was like, he's looking at me. He's like, all right, I know you're fucking bullshitting me, and and so weeks passed um, after I met with him, and he said he was going to get back to me. And I was calling all these other diners, and none of these diners were coming to me. And I was like, oh fuck! Like I'm supposed to be shooting in a week. I'm supposed to be shooting this shit in a week. Finally, he calls me, and he's like, all right. He's like, you could do it. You could do it here. Um,
Wow.
felt felt horrible. I knew he was extremely stressed the entire time. There was one point where blood shot up onto the ceiling tiles,
Oh
blood all over
no.
the ceiling tiles, and I'm like, holy fuck, like I'm trying to clean it out, like I'm trying to do as much as I can. I grab a mop, I'm trying to clean out the blood out of the ceiling tiles. I'm like, all right, like I'm like, fuck, 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 fuck. I'm like, all right, maybe he won't notice. Maybe like something like because I got it out like enough that it was barely visible. The next day I come in, he meets me. He's there at the second night of the shoot, and he's like, so the blood on the ceiling tiles, and I was like, oh dude, like listen, I'm sorry. I was like, I didn't think you would see it. He's like, I was literally watching you on the cameras. You were right in front of the cameras, mopping the ceiling tile. Yeah, I didn't even notice that there was a camera looking directly at me. I was so focused on trying to get the blood out of the ceiling tile. Um, but he had a really interesting perspective because he said these are overnight shoots. These were like 4 straight overnight shoots, and we did it 4 nights in a row. And he had an interesting perspective. He would like watch the whole like film being made on the surveillance cameras. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so he was like saying like that was like a crazy perspective for him to see like the film getting made, and seeing all these things happen and us run through the scenes over and over again on
wow.
surveillance cameras. Yeah.
Dude, that'd be sick if he somehow like could like print that onto something for like a
I
DVD or some shit.
know that would be incredible.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that really would be. I don't know. It was a couple of years ago at this point, but or maybe a year or two. I forgot. But yeah, and that was an active diner. That is an active diner. So we had to be out. We had to be out by 6 every morning when the diner opens. We had to get everything cleaned up when the diner opens. There was blood everywhere. We had to clean up the blood everywhere. We had to clean up, the gore, the certain body parts off the floor, like that. Um, um, uh, I don't know. I don't know if this was the case, but it's too much of a coincidence not to be, and I don't think he would tell me. We got the blood out of the carpets on the floor. I'm pretty sure we did. It was blood that gets out fairly easily. Um, uh, but right after that shoot, he changed the floors, like he renovated the floors, like so he took out all the carpets and all. I'm pretty sure that he
Oh
changed
damn.
the carpets just in case. Yeah, because I I remember coming one of the days and we had to bring down the blinds, of course, because it's right off of like a busy road and you could hear cars passing by, which adds to kind
Right.
of like that more disturbing factor. Like, like these people don't even know from the outside what's going on in the diner. Um, there we pulled down the blinds, and when we pulled down the blinds, there was just like a splash of blood all over the blinds. So like diner had a full active day of serving food with just like blood on the blinds, and they didn't pull down the blinds at any moment. Like it was like it was like a
Oh
real
god.
like scene happened in that diner, like a real graphic scene happened in that diner. But yeah, that I'm incredibly grateful for them. I love them. Like like great diner,
God.
great food. Sunrise Diner, if you're ever in Wantagh in Long Island, definitely visit there. The food is great, super healthy stuff. So sorry. So, thankfully they replaced that ceiling tile. Thankfully they had a ceiling tile. But I just remember like being like, ah, fuck, like, ah, fuck. We had I had to pay a guy that was with the diner to stay with us during the entire shoot, and he
Mm.
was like, oh, don't worry, he's not gonna notice. He's not gonna notice. He's not gonna notice. Of course, fucking
Guy's been there for a couple decades, brother. He's
yeah,
gonna pick up on
yeah,
that shit.
right in front of the guy was watching it. Yeah.
Oh, dude. And one of the things I had to highlight in this is performances. And as much as you're mentioning, improv and different things, uh, Ian O'Boyle, am I pronouncing that
Yep,
correctly?
perfect.
Uh, in particular, really stuck out. And further into the movie, not to give different things away, but there's an aspect where he ends up taking off his mask, and you see that the person behind the entity that you've kind of come to understand.
Yeah.
And I was just interested as far as like what personal nuances were going into some of these people in conversations versus
Mm.
things that were something that they just kind of brought to the table. And especially him, when he has this jaw
Yeah.
click tick thing going
Mm.
on, it just added, it was something so simple and so small and honestly like almost silly that I feel like somebody would read on script, where I saw it and I'm like, this guy is disconnected. Like this guy is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that small thing, like, was that conversation that was had, or was that something that he had brought to that?
Yeah. So he would run things by me. He would run through ideas and stuff like that. And I was every idea that he had was really great. Like he really knew this character. the jaw clicking thing, it almost kind of reminded me of like Heath Ledger's Joker, like with the lip smacking that he has, like the,
Sure.
you know, I think with Ian really understood what I was going for from the get go. He he is such a brilliant actor. Originally in the script, um, I wrote it thinking that I was going to play the white. I had it in mind that
Oh,
I was
really?
just white. Yeah, I thought I was just going to play the white, and like in perspective, I was like, I do not think I could do this while direct this movie. It's just too important for me. So we went through a whole audition process. I was meeting with like a bunch of different people online and stuff like that, and Ian reached out to me personally because I met him prior at a film festival that movie Loving Polly went to,
Mm.
and we kind of connected through that film festival. And he reached out to me. He's like, hey, dude, like I want to audition for this next movie. It sounds crazy. The title's wild. I was like, yeah, sure. So gave him like the rundown. He was so into it right away. I was like, all right, let's we did like an audition over Zoom, but before we did that audition, like probably a day or two later, before I gave him the whole rundown, he made a little short film as himself as the white cooking. He It was a short film of the white cooking like some Italian dish, and I was like, this is insane dedication. And what he did at the end of that little like short audition film that he made, he drank an entire bottle of marinara sauce. He chugged an entire bottle, and it's like it's a still shot of drinking marinara sauce. And he directs too. He directs some short films which are pretty good. And he drank this whole bottle of marinara sauce, and I was like, what the fuck? And he would come to me with like these crazy ideas where I was like he would text me and be like, John, can I do this on this? I'm like, I don't like, is this Ian actually texting me or is this the white? Like it felt like for like months I was talking to the white, this
Mm.
character. And it wasn't until like the rap party where I was like, okay, Ian's back. This is Ian again. Like,
Mm.
I really like felt like I was like when I would get like a text message, it felt like I was getting a text message from this character that I created. So
Oh.
he was super super dedicated. All three of them were. Rob Rappa was so funny as the Blue. He's actually somebody that auditioned that wanted to act. He went to high school with me.
Oh.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and he did an audition that was hilarious. He was super into film growing up with me. And we were friends in high school, and we would get in trouble a lot, and a lot of kind of just like that like playful friendship dynamic almost reminded me of me and Rob in high school, like just like fucking around in our classes and getting into trouble, and without all the horrible things that those characters
Right.
did. But yeah, Rob was great too. He's so talented, and he's so naturally funny, and so like lovable. And like their kind of dynamic between the white and the blue is so lovable, in contrast to like the white and the red, where it's like very like competitive, and almost like the red almost feels like inferior to him,
Mm.
inferior to the white and stuff. And it just the dynamic between all three, and like their dedication. And like one time they called me up, and they were all like hanging out just watching like fucked up videos online, and like trying like before the shoot one night, and they're like, oh, John, do you know any like crazy fucking videos on the internet that we could watch to kind of get ourselves into character? I was like, are you guys
Oh.
together like hanging out? And they're like, yeah, 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 yeah. I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? They're like, we're just watching fucking crazy shit online. I was like, what? Why? And this was like one of the nights before the diner shoot. So, that first night, like everybody in the diner like didn't really know what to expect. Like everybody, like I gave them the rundown. I told them that this is like an interactive like experience. Like consider this like you're part of like an interactive like horror experience, like almost like going through a haunted house,
Sure.
you know.
Okay.
And that's what I told all the background actors, they all delivered. You know,
Totally.
I put out like I put out like an ad like background actors needed and stuff like that, and like all these like people became characters in the moment. Like there's one moment where a character's crawling, like and
Mm-hmm.
trying to crawl to like talk to her friend that's on the other side of the diner. Like that was a completely improvised moment. We were like, this one actor who was just like hilarious. She had us like cracking up the entire shoot. I was like, okay, like I want you to do this scene that's coming to the top of my head, and she was like, I'm down, like like, and we were just pulling people from the crowd, like so all the performances were great, but Ian like really is the centerpiece performance, and his dedication to it is fucking unreal.
Man.
His performance is unreal, and his delivery of some of the lines and just the mania that he really showcased is insane. Yeah.
You know, and I should mention, I mean, it's not to take away from any of the other performances because, obviously the whole like situation just in cases like, insanity. But as far as that white character and, further into the moment where you see him, you see his face and it's like a regular guy, okay, like, well,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like that bad. But
No.
then the jaw clicking, it was almost like seeing like the strangers and like they're like kind of tilting their head or Michael Myers or something. Like it was just very connected in that way where I was like, oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
this dude's
Yeah.
not doing well. And then he breaks into things like "Father Stretch My Hands" by Kanye West, and I'm just
I
like,
know.
brother,
Yeah.
moment of improv, I take
That
it.
was incredibly improv. That was insanely improv. And Rob kind of off of that too. Like I just want to feel liberated. Like,
Dude, I was like, all
yeah,
right, if this wasn't my movie before, and obviously Kanye, he's
horrible person.
doing
Horrible.
terrible things right
Yeah,
now,
fuck
and
Kanye West.
he's had that
Yeah,
history. But
yeah,
man, I've always enjoyed his music,
yeah.
and I feel a little guilty about it nowadays. But that came up, and I was like, what? Like, what the fuck just happened? Now, the title, was that a scripted moment, or did that come from moments of improv?
The title,
Yeah.
like the title Ketchup on Waffles. That just kind of came to me that like it's the theme of this movie, like I mentioned before, is serving the comfort, and you know it being in a diner. I was like, what would be a disturbing, something that kind of disturbs your comfort just by hearing it, and I kind of looked up like crazy food combinations, and there was a Reddit post that was like people who put ketchup on waffles. Like, what is your what is your mentality or something like that? And I was like, holy shit! And seeing how people like react in the comments to that Reddit post, like saying like people were like, oh, like who the fuck would do that? Like they're Satan, and I think that was like the big kind of like factor of it, like that it's a food combination that is so disturbing, like it's really disturbing right off the bat. And let me tell you, I tried it when I was out in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
I had to. It was about time that I tried ketchup on my waffles, and it tastes exactly how you would think. It's
Yeah.
not it's not necessarily disgusting, but it just tastes like putting ketchup on waffles. Like that's as much as I could say to it. I would, if you're curious about trying it, try it.
Have you
Um,
had chicken and
yeah,
waffles?
love chicken and waffles. Yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
I can't say that I haven't, sprinkled a little ketchup on it every once in a while. And then I saw this like
yeah.
title and I'm like, what the fuck is
Not that
this?
bad.
And I was like, what's going on here? Like, no,
Yeah,
no, I'm the guy on Reddit that people are like, this asshole fucking talking about this shit's not that
yeah,
bad.
yeah. No, it's not terrible. It's not
It's
like
not great.
yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's whatever. It's like it's just a combination. Like that's all I could really say about it.
Sure. So just another detail of the uncomfort of what we're about to helm into,
Yeah.
dive into.
Yep.
Uh, I mean, along with acting, directing, editing, you also score this bad boy. And
Yeah.
what can you tell us about that process a little bit, and like maybe some temp music that you had in the meantime?
Yeah. I didn't have any like music. I'm a huge fan of, like Gasper No and like kind of just that like
Dude.
techno like and like stuff like that, and that like kind of like French like club
Hmm.
like kind of vibe, and I kind of wanted to have that, but I also wanted to have a little bit of like almost like something. I don't know who scores his movies, but like I noticed a lot of Romero's movies that it has like kind of like a vibe to it, and
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of capture that vibe as well.
Okay.
There wasn't really any temp music. Like the first cut, like barely had any music in it
Hmm.
whatsoever. Um, and when I realized that like the soundscape might get a little repetitive at times, I put in some music, and I wanted to kind of like think of like who my influences were in terms of like filmmaking, and Gaspar Noé was like his like scores of his movies, and like I was thinking like Climax or
Sure.
Irreversible or Enter the Void. I think it's Enter the Void or
Hmm.
Into the Void.
Yeah.
That like those scores are very like they feel like they feel like almost like clubbish, like, so I wanted to kind of get like that kind of vibe to it with like a kind of like an 80s synth at some points. So yeah, I like that's the thing with this movie. I wanted it to feel like almost like it's like a movie that is like a French extremity film.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like it feels like a kind of like a Gaspar Noé kind of installment, or something like that. Like it feels like the story and everything like that is very relevant to our modern world, but I wanted it to feel like a movie that is from the 90s almost, in the way that it was
Hmm.
shot and the way that it was filmed, like good night independent 90s cinema, or like independent like French cinema of
Hmm.
like the early 2000s and the 90s, and that's like kind of like the vibe I wanted to capture. And so like I said, that was like a huge thing with the score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. And I mean, like his movies too, like Gasper's, that guy is a menace.
Oh, horribly, yeah, horribly a menace. Like it's so great, like seeing like theater reactions at like festivals to like Irreversible, and seeing people go fuck that guy, like fuck this movie, and like getting like very similar reactions from Ketchup on Waffles. And, like, to go back to that whole like point that we were talking about earlier, we had a guy who like fucking smacked his thighs like halfway through the movie, stood up and went "fuck this movie" and walked out. We had like
Damn.
walkouts out of the screening. Yeah, at,
Oh, dude.
yeah, 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 yeah. We had it was funny. We had these two older women who were sitting in front of us, and my friend who came with me, my best friend who came with me, to LA to watch the movie at the Chinese theater. He texted me. He's like these women in front of us are gonna hate this fucking movie, and I was like, dude, I know, and I'm so excited to see the whole movie. They're like, oh my god, it's too much. And at one point, one of the women like stood up and walked over to like my makeup artist who was in attendance too, and she's like, how can you watch this movie? And like during the screening, and my makeup artist was like, because we fucking made it, you know. But yeah, there was it. There was people in the theater that were like crying. There was people in the theater that were like laughing. Like it was such a wide variety. Somebody told me after the fact. I met with one of the people who were there at the screening, and he was telling me that he was with these two women, and one of the women started like bawling, crying, like they had to get out, like they were having like a panic attack watching this movie. And so yeah, that was really interesting to me. Yeah, yeah. Just the reactions, I love him. I mean, like horrible that she had a panic attack. I felt so bad for her, but yeah, I've had people say that they feel like physically sick like watching this movie, and
Dude.
like brings a tear to my eye. I love it.
Did you end up keeping anything from set?
You know what? My actors all did. The red actually, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the red actually kept a certain body part that was
Uh, okay.
from in the movie. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. uh, all the actors, they kept their masks and everything like that. Like the three actors kept their masks, which I was happy about, and I wanted them to keep their masks. For me, it was more so like I felt like I was gonna kind of keep something. I was hoping to keep something. The jacket that I wore in the film still has blood all over it. Um, so I guess that's what I have. But it was something that like I was hoping that I would keep. It's like handing out cake and then you realize you have no cake left. I was giving like props, like, oh fuck it, nothing left to me. But yeah, I really wish I did, but I'm glad that those actors like kept everything. I kind of wish perspective that I kept the body part because it was my body part, like. But it's all right, Max. I don't know.
Where'd you score the masks?
um, I scored them. So here's the thing. So I was for like forever, like throughout pre-production, I was like, what the fuck are these guys like? What the fuck are their masks gonna be? Like for a long time, like they weren't even like scripted as the red, white, and the blue. It was like at one point it was like animals, and then I was like, okay, there was your next, so I can't do animal masks. There at one point it was like it was so many like different things that these characters like kind of wore so many varieties of like what I was thinking for them. And I was searching online. I was like, okay, what are these characters, what are they going to wear? Because it in the script it was just like I kind of labeled them by the color of their hair.
Mm.
And like me thinking I was going to be the white, I labeled him the blonde and like stuff like that. And like kind of went like a Reservoir Dogs kind of
Mm.
thing. And then but like I wanted them, my intention was to change it once I knew what they were going to do. And to keep in line with like the theme of the movie, and like being very specific to the society and political climate of America. I wanted to do red, white, and blue, so I went online and then just saw off of Amazon these like really like kind of weird ski masks, and like they're very distinct. Like these ski masks are very like have a very distinct look to them, and like almost like a European kind of look to
Yeah,
them.
sure.
So like that goes into like the whole like thing that had like thinking and wanted to kind of make this like kind of like a European kind of French extremity kind of style film. And so I just grabbed them off Amazon. I got like a color pack and with like red, white, and blue, which I made sure that they had, and
Sick.
yeah,
Dude,
worked
it
out.
worked
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
John, this has been awesome, dude. This has been insane. I love all the details, all the stories behind making something like this, and the success behind it. I can't do anything but congratulate. Is there anything as far as physical or like on demand that you have for a release of this bad boy?
So we're still working on distribution. Somewhere like Screenbox or Shutter would be incredible. I'm working on distribution. I've been talking to distributors and trying to work something out. So all I can really say for now is stay tuned. I'm really
Beautiful.
thinking that it's going to come out this year. I really hope that it's going to come out this year, and I think that when it does, it's gonna it's gonna hit the people like a fucking tsunami, because it's been gaining a lot of attention just from screenings and the critic reviews and
Yeah.
from
Word of mouth.
yeah, word of mouth. And
Yeah.
like I left the screening at the film festival that day, and got a haircut at the. It doesn't seem like I did, but I did. I got a haircut at a barber shop in LA, and I was my barber was kind of asking about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about it." Like it's crazy how like just from that screening, like it spread like wildfire. You
Yeah.
know, like it's been wild, and yeah. So just I would say stay tuned. You're in for a fucking crazy movie, like a really fucking crazy movie, unlike anything that's out right now.
I
I could promise
agree.
that. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I agree. I can't wait. I'll support, any way that I can too, and have up, this online here as far as the interview for when people watch it and kind
Yeah.
of, dig in a little bit more. But,
Yeah.
John, this has been incredible, dude.
Awesome.
I can't appreciate the time anymore, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thank you for having me.
All
This has
right,
been awesome.
buddy.
All right. It was great
You take
talk.
care.
Take care.
Enjoy the rest of the day,
All
man.
right. Bye bye.
See ya. Agree.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.